I got addicted to the game F1 Clash, so I can tell you exactly how the developer uses psychology to get you to spend your time and money to
help teach Ferrari how to make better strategy calls so Charles Leclerc doesn't drive himself into a wall or into madness.
I like mobile games. A lot. And I know I'm not the only one. Mobile gaming has never been more popular, with the industry recording higher than ever downloads, playtime, and profits. But most mobile games are free to play. So how is it that these developers are making so much money off a game you play on the toilet? Well, most of these games utilize a library of psychological tricks and tactics to get players to part with their hard-earned cash. I would know, I've spent dollars on these games over the years. But as a behavior change researcher, I feel it's important to share just how these games hack your brain. So I'm going to download a mobile game I've never played before and play for at least 2 hours a day for a week. I'll also spend up to $50 in the game to try and improve my player experience. I'll be judging games based off their gameplay, graphics, visuals, and sound, and my enjoyment. But most importantly, their sinisterness. Today's game is F1 Clash. F1 Clash is a game by developer Hutch that places you, the player, as the new team principal for a team on the Formula 1 grid. You're tasked with taking your team of 2 drivers through all the tracks on the F1 calendar, defeating rival teams and their drivers to score flags, earn coins, upgrade your car and drivers, and ultimately find your team at the top of the digital F1 championship. It's just like the real F1, except you don't have to do all those boring things like get sponsors, or manage the team, or talk to the press, or build the car, or test the car, or drive the car. You can totally smash your headphones if you want though. The goal of the game, in its simplest terms, is you racing your 2 drivers against 2 other drivers from another player's team on a randomly picked F1 track, with the goal of scoring more points than the other player. Whoever wins earns flags that progress you through to different tracks, coins that help you buy upgrades on your drivers and car, and crates, which contain assets that help you further upgrade your car and drivers. See, in real-life Formula 1, the titular formula means that teams have to create their own car within the guidelines or formula that the FIA or
Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile
sets out. Of course, this involves highly specialized engineers, expensive and purpose-built machinery, world-class simulation tech, and potentially an entire factory dedicated to designing and fabricating your own engine. But in F1 Clash, you build the race car the old-fashioned way, by opening random shipping containers full of parts and slapping something together with whatever you find. It's like if Part Source sold Labubu blind boxes. Except for some reason you can fit 100 gearboxes into this car and that makes it faster? But you also have to pay way more coins for it to work. This is some real I put powdered milk in my milk so I get more milk per milk kind of logic. You can also find drivers in these crates, but that has a weird human trafficking angle that I just don't feel fully equipped to joke about. Anyway, once you finish finding a way to install 30 front wings and 20 engines onto your car, you're off to the races. You're initially guided through the racing part of the game by an undefined member of your team, Olivia. Olivia introduces you to the main gameplay elements within the races of F1 Clash. Olivia is great. I'm so glad she's around to help out. I'm sure we'll see a lot more of Olivia in the future.
Olivia was last seen July 10th. If you see Olivia, please alert the authorities. Do not chase her. She will run.
At the start of each race, before you're able to do anything, your drivers first race the other players' drivers in a qualification lap to determine starting placement on the grid. Then, you move to a pre-race screen where you decide on your driver's starting tire compound. Soft tires give the best grip and hence are the fastest, but they also degrade the quickest and thus need to be swapped sooner. Hard tires last longer, but give less grip, which means slower lap times, but also means making fewer pit stops, which can eat up valuable time. Wet tires for wet. Your driver's tire management stat will also impact how long each tire lasts for them. And importantly, this is where you're also able to assign your drivers boosts. From what I can gather, boosts are these sports drinks that contain varying concentrations of super soldier serum. There are boosts that improve nearly every stat in the game, from straight line speed to corner speed to overtaking. Some of this makes sense. Maybe you need a little instinct in your driver's bottle and it improves their reaction time. I'm less clear on how a sports drink makes your car faster though. Like, is it in the fuel? Is the car drinking it? Downforce. It's what cars crave. Finally, after you make all the appropriate selections, you finally get to start racing. And by racing, I mean choosing when to use your battery to give your drivers an extra bit of speed, when to call your drivers in for a pit stop, and where to use your DRS after you unlock it. It's much more thinky-think than it is zoom-zoom. See, for those who are unfamiliar with F1 or motorsports in general, It can seem like F1 is just a bunch of millionaires driving around a pseudo-circular shape 40 to 70 times until one of them wins. And that's actually pretty accurate. But there is a ton of strategy that goes into actually winning an F1 race, and surprisingly, build the fastest car and have the fastest driver isn't always enough to win you every race. In fact, my initial play experience of F1 Clash was pretty poor because I saw it as a racing game. I would watch my cars drive around the circuit, wear out their tires, and then get frustrated that my pit stops would take so long because I had to stack my cars and lose out on so much time. But after a day of playing, I started to see it more as a strategy game, and my enjoyment of the game skyrocketed from there. And as a pretty big F1 nerd, I have to give the developers credit for the elements of the game that emulate real F1 strategy. While most tracks I played only raced for 6 to 9 laps, I was paying near constant attention to my driver's tire wear so I knew when to pit them and which tire to put on, keeping track of their track position so I could activate DRS in the best spots, and looking out at the weather forecast to plan for switching to or off wets. Some racetracks also emphasize particular attributes. In tight street circuits like Singapore, cornering and a good race start is emphasized, whereas defending and top speed were crucial in a high-speed track like Monza. Sometimes someone would crash and a safety car would force me to change up my strategy entirely. The game really did feel like it rewarded me for being more strategic. That being said, that's about where the realism stops. Remember those boosts I mentioned early on? Yeah, turns out they're kinda game breaking, at least early on. Boosts give a massive bonus to your driver's stats, to the point where some races felt like they were won by the driver who was on the strongest stimulant. Also, unlike F1 IRL, you can swap tires to the same compound for the entire race. There's no need to switch to another at least once, which I feel is a bit of a missed opportunity. I think having a minigame associated with the pit stops would have been a cool touch too. Speaking of pit stops, how about taking a quick one right now to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Fastest pit stop of the 2025 F1 season thus far is 2 seconds flat. Think you can beat it? Ready? Go! Anyway, back to the game. Graphics-wise, everything feels pretty underwhelming. The cars drive quite stiffly and make contact nearly every race, particularly at the start. This doesn't ever result in a crash, but it does make the game feel more like bumper cars than F1. After the starting lights go out, I just ended up playing nearly all my races in the overview mode, since it was easier to track both my driver's positions and adjust my strategy accordingly. And I also didn't feel like I was missing out on much visually. The soundtrack also got pretty repetitive, with only one background track playing in the main screen and just car sounds while racing. I would have really appreciated a few pre-recorded voice lines like
So box
for pitting, or
must be the water
for when it's raining, or
No, Mikey, no, Mikey, that was so not right.
for when I'm losing. Speaking of losing, during my 7 days, progression through the game felt smooth and scaled well. You start aptly in the beginning, where you race other players to earn flags, which then unlock higher series. The higher the series you unlock, the more coins it costs to race, but also the more coins you get for winning, and the rarer the assets you get in the crates that you win. In lower series, you don't lose any flags for losing a race, but as you progress, you can start to lose flags, so there is some consequence. Your team score, which is determined by the stats of your drivers and car, also must be within the predetermined series threshold to race, so you can't just ignore upgrades. Ultimately though, I felt like I didn't have to think about this too much. As I progressed in the series, the assets I unlocked naturally boosted my team's score to where it needed to be for the next series. By the end of my 7 days, I had unlocked pretty much every driver on the grid in some rarity except Carlos Sainz.
Can you introduce me to Carlos Sainz?
But unlocking Carlos, or anything really, isn't just as simple as buying it with coins or getting a L'Oreal ad placement. Although, when I tell you this game has ads. Building an F1 car is not cheap, as it turns out. Car development easily reaches into the millions of dollars, and crashes, upgrades, and maintenance keep this from being a fixed cost. In the early days of the sport, only the richest manufacturers could participate, like Ferrari or Mercedes-Benz. However, in the 1970s and 80s, companies realized something. What is an F1 car if not a very, very fast billboard? And so began an era of company sponsorship absolutely plastering the livery of a car. Tobacco companies, alcohol companies, and eventually tech companies each came to dominate the sponsorship space on these race cars, paying millions of dollars to tag everything from the tip of the nose to the rear of the wing, and everything in between. Here, I'll show you a picture of McLaren's championship leading car from this year, and you tell me how many sponsors you can spot in 10 seconds. Ready? Go! I counted 15, but I'm confident there's ones I've missed. That's not even mentioning the sponsorships that the drivers themselves often have. But within the context of the sport, all this sponsorship makes sense. The constructor nature of F1 means it is, and will likely always be, prohibitively expensive to participate in. But F1 Clash is free, so why the hell are there so many ads in this game? I am not kidding you when I say roughly 30% of my time playing F1 Clash was spent watching ads. You can watch ads to unlock crates, watch ads to help speed up crate opening, watch ads for boosts, and watch ads for coins. I mean, there's literally a daily objective that is just watch 5 ads. If that doesn't speak to how many ads there are in this game, I don't know what will. But the main reason I ended up watching ads was to speed up crate opening. See, after you win a race in F1 Clash, you get a crate of a random rarity. This crate contains assets which help to upgrade your car or driver, except I guess these crates ship from overseas because each one takes hours to open. A basic crate takes 2.5 hours to open, but gold crates take 6, and if you get lucky and earn a legendary crate, it takes 24 hours, which is how long it would take you to assemble a heist crew to break into it, I assume. Oh, and you can only start the process of opening the next crate after you're done with the one you're on, because I guess you're bad at your job. But also, you can only have a queue of 4 crates, after which you don't earn any from winning races. So if you want to maximize the spoils of your wins, you're going to have to wait. Or watch an ad to lower the open time by 30 minutes. And this is the sinisterness of this kind of mechanic. See, for the developer, having players watch ads is a behavior that they want. If the developer, Hutch, can promise another developer that the players of F1 Clash will see their ad at least 5 times each time they play, that's money for them. But no one plays a game to watch ads for another game. Well, I shouldn't say no one. I've got a friend who likes to play the shitty demos of games that are in ads for like other games. I don't get it. But most people don't intend to watch ads when they play a game. And typically, what keeps us from watching an ad we don't have to watch is something called self-control. Self-control is our ability to regulate our emotions or behaviors so that we can achieve long-term goals, even if they require a sacrifice, or keep ourselves from doing things in the short term that don't benefit us. In other words, when the lizard part of our brain wants to buy a new TV, self-control is the monkey part of our brain that reminds us we can't afford it and to walk away instead, even if it makes us sad. What's important to note about self-control, though, is that it is a skill, and it's affected by things like hunger, fatigue, and even the time of day. What this means for our digital safecracking is that even if you have the self-control to keep yourself from watching an ad this time, you're gonna have to be back in a couple of hours to open the next crate, and by then, maybe you'll be more receptive to watching an ad. After all, you want to maximize your winnings, and if watching a 30-second ad means you can start watching another race 30 minutes earlier, you can see how the motivation we have to continue to self-regulate can start to weaken. Even if we could control ourselves, our motivation to do so is lower. For me, I ended up watching a lot of ads just to lower this time. I can't even begin to tell you how many polar bears I've slaughtered just to get closer to my little gotcha box of car parts. But even watching ads had its limits. I was only able to watch 5 ads to lower the time on a crate, and after that, there was only one option left if I wanted my rewards sooner. This may or may not be surprising to you, but I love rice. But before I was a 30-something-year-old dink that had the expendable cash to buy a $300 rice cooker, I was a broke university student who just got dumped by his first long-term girlfriend and had fallen into a depressing cycle of playing Skyrim and watching How I Met Your Mother. So it goes without saying that I didn't have an hour to spend waiting for my rice to cook. There were dragons afoot, or aloft. A flight? I needed to eat rice now. And so, to the dismay of my ancestors, I began cooking minute rice, or for those who grew up with privilege, parboiled rice that cooks in 5 to 10 minutes. But we've come so far since those days. Now, rice can be cooked in 2 minutes, a minute and a half, even 1 minute. In fact, if we extrapolate the relationship of how quickly rice can be made over time, by the year 2050, I predict rice will be made so fast, the exothermic reaction it creates will be weaponized by the US military. Just imagine hearing, "Fire in the hole," and then just seeing like a bag of Uncle Ben's get thrown at your feet. The point of this starchy anecdote is that when we want things, we usually want them right away. This is called instant gratification and really shouldn't be news to anyone. We are born with the drive to receive an expected outcome after performing a behavior. If a baby is crying, it's because it wants something, and it wants it now. Whether that's food, or to be changed, or for touch, our psychology is built upon a foundation of, I do this thing, I get this thing. That's why children often find it difficult to understand the concept of patience. Waiting makes us uncomfortable, and why would I want to be uncomfortable? And it's not just children. Entire industries are built upon this very primitive desire. Credit cards, cash advances, and buy now, pay later services like Klarna, Affirm, and Afterpay all prey upon this exact thing. Like, yeah, I want this TV, but I can't afford it right now. But what if I could? The consequences of egregious interest charges, late fees, and annual costs are less real to us compared to the crisp and fluid images on this 80-inch 4K OLED flat-screen TV. And just like with self-control, our urge for instant gratification can be influenced by a lot of things. I don't know about you, but after spending hours getting groceries, the last thing I want to do is cook a meal. The juxtaposition of wanting a prepared meal and literally having a trunk full of groceries perfectly exemplifies how factors like hunger or fatigue can influence our ability to delay gratification. And it's no different in F1 Clash. In addition to watching ads to speed up crate opening, you can also just spend bucks, the in-game currency, to open a crate instantly. The longer a crate has left to open, the more bucks you gotta pay. Now, with a common rarity crate, I can delay my gratification for the 2 hours it takes to open. The rewards inside aren't going to be that amazing, and if I really wanted to speed things up, I can watch some ads. But if I earn a legendary crate that takes 24 hours to open, well, I know what's inside is going to be really good. And after 5 ads, I can't lower the time to open the crate anymore. And because I can only open one crate at a time, I can't even start opening some of these other lower rarity crates to make room for the other crates. Thus, I found myself spending a lot of my bucks on opening common rarity crates while I was unlocking rarer crates, just so I could make more space for more crates. Instant gratification became not just me wanting to get my reward, but an actual strategy I used so I could get more out of the game. And I know the developers know just how powerful the desire for instant gratification is. There's a bundle you're able to buy early on in the game that gives you instant access to DRS, which temporarily increases the top speed of your car. This is obviously a huge advantage over opponents who don't have this item. Also, when you look through the in-game store, any bundle or offer that included a crate made sure to highlight that you could open it instantly. No need to wait unfairly for the rewards that you earned. You could just immediately open that sucker up and marvel at what was inside. And if the crate was also on sale, well. I grew up in an immigrant household, and if there's one thing my mom loves just as much as her kids, it's a good deal. And not just any good deal, but like a I have swindled this business out of their wares kind of good deal. But back then, it felt like you really had to earn that deal. Nowadays, businesses go out of their way to ensure you know there's a sale happening. Red tags, yellow stickers, billboards, flyers, email promotions, posters, loyalty programs. It can be hard to imagine walking into a store and not seeing some kind of signage indicating the great sale that is happening. And this takes advantage of something called salience bias. Salience bias is the tendency of our brain to focus on information that is salient, or that stands out to us. This could be because it's particularly vivid or odd, stirs up some kind of emotional reaction in us, or because of how prevalent it is. For example, remember that Air India plane crash that happened in June 12, 2025? That, and plenty of other recent high-profile aviation disasters and near misses have left a lot of people wary of air travel. But despite this, air travel remains one of the safest and most reliable forms of transportation. Far safer than motor vehicles, and roughly 1 trillion times safer than those Lime scooters you see littered around major cities. Seriously, don't ride one of those things unless you have your affairs in order. They're basically Hulk-colored human trebuchets. But what makes us so wary of plane travel as compared to far more dangerous forms of transportation is the fact that plane crashes are remarkable and spectacular in like the worst way. We're shown videos and images of the wreckage on the news, and we imagine how terrible it must be to have been involved in that accident, maybe deciding to not fly in a plane. The potential consequences of traveling in a plane become salient to us, and we psychologically latch onto that image and those dangers and change our behaviors accordingly, even when presented with data to suggest otherwise. This also works for positive things too.
Oh my God! We're having a fire sale!
But why would a business want to highlight how discounted something is if they make less money off it? Imagine you need a new pair of human shoes. You walk into the human shoe store and see a sign that says, buy one pair of shoes, get one pair 50% off. Even as you pick out and try on the shoes you came for, the notion that you could buy a second pair for 50% off might linger or stay salient in your mind. Maybe now you're thinking you could use another pair of human shoes. The salience of the deal has influenced your behavior. F1 Clash is no different. Each time you unlock a new series of races, the game shows you a special offer. The first one, awarded for your progress to Series 2, contains a platinum crate and $500, and at $299 is 90% off. Given $600 on its own is $12.99, this is a good deal. So then you progress to Series 3 and get another offer. This time 2 platinum crates and $450 for $399, also 90% off. And then you hit Series 4 and get an offer for 2 platinum crates and $400 for $499, which is 90% off. And then Series 5, you get an offer for 2 platinum crates and $350 for $699, which is 90% off. You can see how the only thing that seems to be consistent among these deals is the 90% off. And if you weren't recording your gameplay, like a normal person who wears human shoes, you might have missed how you slowly get fewer bucks and the same number of crates at a higher cost. Here, Salience bias keeps us focused on what the developer wants us to think is important, which is 90% off is a very good deal, even if you're losing out on what you were getting before. And speaking of losing, yeah, I don't want to brag, but once I got the hang of F1 Clash, I got pretty good at it. My overall win streak by the end of my 7 days was 83%. And when it came to qualifying for the Grand Prix event, I won all 4 of my qualification races and came 7th overall in my cohort. And with all the trouble that Red Bull's been having with their team principal lately, I'm expecting a call any day now. But even the giants of sport can be felled, and I am but a mere mortal. I will credit the matchmaking here. There was only a couple of races where I felt totally outclassed. Most of the time I lost, it was only by a few points or because of some major blunder I'd made. But that almost made it feel worse. They say that silver is the worst medal to receive because you have the taste of gold. Bronze is just happy to have snagged a podium. But there's no bronze in F1 Clash since all the races are just you versus another player. And it's in an emotional and vulnerable mental state, like having just lost, that we are vulnerable to targeted messaging. See, every time I lost a race, the very next screen would have a pop-up that almost mockingly said, "Need a boost? Watch an ad." Like I mentioned earlier, boosts are kind of game-breaking. You definitely want to be giving your drivers a boost every race you're in. But they're also expendable, so win or lose, you're going to be losing out on your boost. So why wouldn't you want to watch an ad to get a free one? This is an example of just-in-time messaging, which is a behavioral technique, or a tactic used to change our behavior. As the name would suggest, just-in-time messages are intended to show up exactly when they are needed or will be most effective, like a wizard. The main way they know when to show up, though, is through some sort of trigger. For example, have you ever put some items in your cart while shopping online, but then left the webpage, thinking you might decide later? Perhaps it's not a coincidence that that same store will send you an email saying you left things in your cart and that they're running low in stock, or to offer you a discount on those items. In this scenario, your abandoned cart was the trigger for the store to send you tailored messages to help change your behavior to what they want. They know you're interested in these items, you just need a little push to get you to purchase them. These emails also tend to be much more personalized than the standard promotional emails that stores send out, and because of that, can be more effective. This timing and angle of a lot of just-in-time messaging is also particularly effective because of loss aversion. I discussed loss aversion in my previous video, but basically our brains just really don't like to lose. We preferentially avoid taking risks that would cause us to lose, even if the gains would outweigh the losses. This is the reasoning behind limited time offers and low inventory deals. If you don't buy now, the items in your cart could go out of stock and you'll miss out forever. This concept is perfectly captured by the entry fee for races in F1 Clash. After the first series of races, each race cost coins to enter, ranging from 5,000 to 36 million, getting higher with the series progression. The game also shows you how many coins you get for winning the race, which is typically twice as many coins as the entry fee. This can be higher if you have a coin multiplier, but ultimately, if you lose, you will still lose your entry fee. And this is made very clear by the animation at the beginning of a race where your coins get vacuumed into the ether from behind your ear, like a digital magic trick. Where did they go? Oh, there they are, very clearly being given to the player who is not me. Rude. I personally felt like I needed to be well stocked on boosts, so my losses were minimized, even at the cost of watching an ad or two. But there's one final feature that F1 Clash uses that incorporates nearly all the tactics we've discussed so far, and more. This is the Pit Pass. I believe it's meant to emulate a paddock pass, which is like a VIP backstage pass that rich and famous people buy to be up close and personal with the teams during the race weekend and pretend they like F1. I'm not jealous. But in F1 Clash, instead of being able to ask Max Verstappen for his signature, you might just find him in a shipping container instead. That's because the Pit Pass is effectively a battle pass. It has a series of items and bonuses that you unlock by playing the game. The more trophies you earn by playing races, the more things you unlock. Except you only get to unlock things on the free side. If you want access to the premium, super cool, awesome, exclusive items, you're going to need to buy the Pit Pass. In my video on DC Dark Legion, I mentioned how this kind of pass takes advantage of loss aversion. Even if we don't buy the Pit Pass, the game still shows us all the things we could be missing out on if we don't buy the pass. The timer showing when the Pit Pass ends only adds to the urgency to act. But even after you buy it, the Pit Pass still encourages you to spend. See, if you don't earn enough trophies to unlock everything before time runs out, well, you can just buy your way to the items you want through spending the in-game currency. Instant gratification. But there's one other interesting thing that you also get with the Pit Pass, a gold-plated username. And what does it do? Well, nothing. It doesn't give you any bonuses or advantages during races, but that doesn't mean it doesn't do anything. Much like the 2 Chainz of the rapper 2 Chainz, this gold is meant to stand out to other players. This gold username is another method by which the game uses salience bias to draw attention to something that might change player behavior. The first time you see it, it stands out. But eventually, if you notice most of the people you're racing against have a gold-plated username, well, then there must be something you're missing out on. I guess loss aversion is basically just FOMO. There definitely are other bonuses that make the Pit Pass worth purchasing, like a small increase in the items you get from crates, or the ability to automatically queue crates for opening. I just think the username change is the gold-plated cherry on top of a slightly sinister sundae. By the end of my 7 days playing F1 Clash, I had spent $52.92, which is a bit over the $50 I said I would spend. But in my defense, everything I bought up to that point was in Canadian dollars, and the last thing I bought was in USD for some reason. I don't know if this is intentionally sinister, but it does kind of feel pretty underhanded. I purchased the 4 reward offers at 90% off because wow, such a good deal. The Pit Pass, the instant access for DRS, and then 2 Independence Day deals. And with all my in-game currency, I bought Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen as rare drivers. And it still doesn't feel any less weird to say bought. While my initial play experience was whelming, seeing the game as more of a strategy game and less of a racing game helped make the game a lot more enjoyable. I really didn't enjoy the crate queue process though, as I found many times it actually just made me want to play less of the game, which goes to show you how even tactics meant to encourage certain behaviors can backfire or have an unintended effect. For my 7-day play experience of F1 Clash, I'd give it a 6 out of 10. If I was rating it just on the game itself, I might have given it a 7 or even a 7.5, but when I take into account the number of ads in this game, along with the waiting you have to do if you don't want to pay to open crates instantly, it detracted from my enjoyment. And when I consider those tactics alongside the deceptive sales tactics, just-in-time messaging for more ads, and how much you lose out on if you don't buy the Pit Pass, I'd say this game ranks at about a 6 out of 10 for sinisterness too. The matchmaking is good, and I definitely think you can get away with enjoying this game as a free player, but the game has more than enough tricks under its hood to get you to spend your money pimping out your Hot Wheels race car. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'd love it if you'd subscribe to the channel and like the video. And if you learned something, please comment below what that is. And also, comment what game you'd like me to cover next. Bye.
Okay, he pushed me off the track. I think you have to leave a space. All the time you have to leave a space.